So self-care has become important. They don't see it as an indulgence. They actually see it as a necessity. So that's been a shift in the way they perceive it, right? You have to choose what you want to prioritize and prioritize it at that time and be ready to firefight the hell out of it. And then I realized that, I have to really work on this. And so I actually made like an hour by hour schedule for myself as to where I need to be at what time and where I need to be. Because, this mom guilt is true.
Yeah.
Savita, it doesn't matter what we do, it's always going to be there. But I think the hardest thing is for us not wanting to say that we can't do it and we need help. I realized that India is not a quality conscious market.
Yeah.
It's more a very price conscious market. And, if you're playing a very D2C online game, it's a very discount centric market. Growing slower is more profitable, but not really what investors look for because they want that X return in so many years. So we're the first ever Indian manufactured, Indian formulated, Indian R&D dermocosmetics to ever launch in dermatology offices in the US. I think life is ups and downs, and you've got to take both on an even keel in many ways. Stay true to your knowledge. Don't try and hack it or don't try and fake it. Use a sunscreen on a daily basis ever since you're at least 2 years of age. The earlier you start, the better.
Hello and welcome to the Success with Savita podcast, where we share hot tips on how to do life and business without losing your mind. I'm your host, Savita Nanjappa, entrepreneur, high-achieving 9-to-5er turned transformational success coach, helping you create a wildly successful business. Come hang out with me and other fabulous humans like you every week for stories and chats packed with a healthy dose of tips, resources, how-tos, and real talk. Side effects may include a happier and more confident you with each passing day. Welcome to the Success with Savita podcast. My guest on today's show is Dr. Chytra Anand, who's an internationally renowned celebrity cosmetic dermatologist, and she's the founder and CEO of the well-known chain of Cosmoderma clinics, as well as being the founder of her own range of skincare products, SkinQ. Full disclosure, I have tried SkinQ products myself, and I have been going to Dr. Chytra for the last 10 plus years on and off. And she is popularly known as Dr. Fix-It or the beauty doc by her patients who travel from other cities and countries to seek her expertise. Her clients include the who's who from various walks of life, including fashion, films, corporates, industrialists, and socialites. Today, we're going to unpack in our conversation her journey of setting up Cosmoderma, launching SkinQ, and navigating this dual role of being a dermatologist as well as an entrepreneur. I'm really excited to get this started. Let's dive right in. Hi, and welcome to the Success with Savita podcast. With me on the show today is one of my favorite people, and I say this every time, and she's now literally tired of hearing it, but Dr. Chytra, who, interestingly, even before this interview, I've been going to her for the last over 10 years. I have been very bad with my skincare, and I get a lot of grief. With that, welcome to the podcast and welcome to the show. Thank you for making the time to be here today, and we appreciate you so much. And I hope you're as excited as I am to be here.
I am so excited to be here, and thank you for asking me on your show, Savita.
You're welcome. And I had to do this. You were on my list, by the way, from 2021. It's taken us a while to get you here, but it had to be special. It had to be video. And it was meant to be, right? And I'm a huge believer in manifesting. And you were never meant to be on Zoom. You were never meant to be on.
Live is better.
Yeah. So I'm going to go right back and ask you about the genesis of SkinQ. Why did you choose to start SkinQ as a brand versus Cosmoderma?
That's a good question. And a lot of people ask me that because they say you already had a big brand. Why not under that? SkinQ, I think, actually cuts through the room and the noise. It stands for Skin Quotient. And actually, I have to say this, I was really fed up of seeing people coming into my office at the clinic and saying that, oh gosh, I tried this and I had a reaction, or I'm trying these products and I've never had good skin and stuff. And I just used to think, why are people so dumb about making skincare choices? Because it's true, right? I mean, skin is the largest organ in our body, right? And it's also the first defense barrier in our body, but we least take care of it. You know, hair falls, hair turns gray, you're running to the salon to color it or, trim it, etc. But skin has acne or it has dry patches. People are like, oh, it'll settle down, it'll settle down. And so I would see these people over the years. And that was one. That's why I said I have to create something that would be easy for them to just get good skin. Because fundamentally, I know and I believe that it's really easy to have good skin. Really easy. All it takes is a little bit of effort, 5 minutes, 2 minutes in the morning, 3 minutes at night. That's it. And consistency. Seeing this again and again and people not doing it made me want to create something. And then I think for me, one of the pivot points was COVID. The reason was at COVID time, I had a lot more time because, clinics were shut, we were in lockdown, etc. And I took to actually seeing my social media. There was my team literally handles it. And I saw that on a daily basis, we get like 300-400 messages, DM, asking for help for skin.
Wow.
Yeah. And, I had teenagers messaging who were saying that they were bullied at school and said, oh, you're dirty, don't play with us because they had acne. And the kids said, oh, you're dirty. I had women talking about how they would not go for family functions anymore because that pigmentation. And people would look at them and they would say, oh, what happened? And everybody will give you a list of, one daddy's recipe, one homemade pack, my mom did this, my bai did this, whatever. And so they would just feel like, I can't go out. And I think when people have skin problems and stuff and people are commenting on it, which we free-flowingly do in India, it traumatizes them to another level. So when I saw this, I realized, okay, I have to do something about this. And then I saw this whole spike of beauty industry. And when I looked at what products I could recommend off the shelf, I realized that none of them have R&D. None of them are created for, skin of color or melanated skin, which is Indian skin. There's no testing to even see if there's safety issues. And just after COVID, out of 10 patients, every 3 patients, that's 30%, would be because of a reaction to the wrong skincare. Because they saw a reel, they saw a YouTube video, and they bought that on impulse. So then I said, this is not so hard. It's not rocket science. It really just takes a little bit of effort and ethics when you're creating products. And so we do original formulations at SkinQ. And so it stood up with Skin Quotient. So the idea was like you have an IQ, you have an EQ. Okay. So there is a Skin Quotient. So think about it. And it was to make it accessible, affordable, and effective skincare for the Indian diaspora and skin of color.
I'm smiling when you're sharing all of this because, I've seen your expression when you ask me, what all do you use? And I've given you this list of different products. You're like, to the audience listening, she's giving me a very disgusted look. So I know why SkinQ for sure. And yes, I have been tempted on Instagram. While I've had you tell me what products to use, and luckily I came into the skin game way early, I'm talking about 2009, 2010. And so I haven't really gone overboard. But having said that, I totally get it. I'm tempted to buy stuff. And I think no matter what it is, Instagram, social media is definitely today's marketing. But with that, before we go into the business part of SkinQ, right, I want to talk about your background. You're starting from your college, your education to what made you start Cosmoderma. And I know this for sure. You started at a time when there weren't any dermatologists around. You were like the pioneer, at least in Bangalore and in South India. And I know of people from around South India who would come to you. So tell us about that, because that must have been a difficult decision and a big investment for you to start your own skin clinic.
Yeah, I think I always tell everybody I'm an accidental doctor. I was actually, I actually didn't know what I wanted to do when I was young. Much younger.
Like all of us?
Like all of us, right?
Yeah.
Because here you finish 12th and then you're expected to get into a professional course. And at 12th grade, you're really young. I think I started school very early. Those days you could start when you were 3, right? So I was literally, I was about 16 when I got to med school. And so,
You're a genius. You're a this now. You're one of those, those kids who topped every class. So you got those double promotions. That's what it was called then. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think maybe because I was very naughty, I got pushed up in class. I don't know about this, but so I was in med school and I didn't enjoy med school actually. Because fundamentally I like talking to people, understanding, and I like asking questions. And our traditional form of education in India prohibits that.
Yeah.
At least in the past it did.
Yeah.
And I remember I've been hit umpteen times with dusters and choppies and all of that, and I'd be sent to the principal's office as being destructive and stuff. So I didn't enjoy it, and I came back home and I used to think, what is this? And I would never think that quitting was an option. But I remember first year was 1.5 years in med school. Your exams after 1.5 years those days. Now it's changed. So I think about 2 weeks before my exam, I still wasn't studying because I just didn't enjoy it and I didn't know what to do about it. So I was stumped. And my father found me reading a novel, right, instead of my textbooks. And then he says, what's happening? And then that's when I told my parents, I'm not really happy. I don't want to do this. And then they sat me down. We had a chat. And then my father said, look, you're already 1.5 years in. You have 3 more years left to finish this. To finish med school. You could do this as just a basic degree. And then if you don't want to do medicine, I'll send you anywhere. You can go and study whatever you want to do.
Okay.
And I was like, I want to do business. Not that I understood what it meant. I was like, I want to be a business person. So it's fine. I'll send you for your studies. But if you quit, you have to do a BCom or a B. I think it was BBM or BCom those days. That was the only choice. And he said, that's also 3, but you come out, you have a doctor title. I was like, fine. And, so I went ahead and finished med school. And then I said, I'm not practicing. Even I finished internship. I really enjoyed the internship though, the patient interactions and everything. And then I went to London to actually study business studies. I was doing short courses on business studies there. And I also realized that one of the things that I had to write up for my case here. So I did an executive MBA while I was doing my internship in Mysore. And that part of that case, I had to write a case of what I would build out. So I thought I would build out a chain of spas in India because, this is, we're talking 98, 99, 2000, right? 1999.
Yeah.
Spas were not there and you have to travel a lot. And I would see that every hotel had a spa and there were lots of spas. So I was like, this is something that's going to come to India. So why not think of this? And I'd written a model. So when I went there, I started doing research into all of that and stuff. And I actually did a course in spa therapies to understand it even more deeper. And I got a job in a plastic surgeon's office, temping because, after med school, everything seems so easy because, it's nothing.
You already done the client.
Yeah. And that's when I realized there was a whole field of aesthetic dermatology, plastic surgery, because India was so nascent, there was not. And that's when I realized, I could combine beauty and medicine. And then that's when I went and I did my dermatology studies. And then I went on to do a fellowship in cosmetic dermatology in Miami at Miller School of Medicine and stuff. And then I worked for a chain of clinics in London, which then got sold to a PE company. And I had an option of either staying back or leaving at that time. And I always wanted to live in India. And so the idea was, do I stay back or do I come? And I was like, this is the time to go back and let's explore. I'll spend about 2-3 years, explore. If it doesn't happen, I always have the option to go back to London. And that's when I came into India. And that's how I started Cosmoderma.
And this was very early. What
2006.
Wow. In 2006. What was people's approach? I know what my approach was when I first came to you. So I can imagine a few years before that, what were people's approach to skincare? Was it a nice to have or what was it like?
There was no approach. Really, there wasn't. If you had a skin concern, like a disease, you would see the doctor. But you never saw them for maintenance or taking care of your skin at that time in India. And I remember when I would tell people I'm a cosmetic dermatologist, they would be like, what is a cosmetic dermatologist? And I would have to explain to them what I would do. And when I first started, I would get people coming in for rashes and fungal infections. And I'd be like, I don't treat this. Because I wanted to differentiate. Because if I started treating clinical, then I would never be able to make them differentiate between clinical dermatology and cosmetic or aesthetic dermatology, because they're two completely different fields. Just because you underwent clinical dermatology training doesn't mean you're going to be a good cosmetic dermatologist. You need to train for that too. And there were none at that time, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, so I would never see them. I would refer them to other friends of mine who were dermatologists, and they would be like, why are you referring? I'm like, because I'm not going to see these patients because I'm only building cosmetic dermatology.
Yeah.
And it took explaining. So my consultation time would be 1 hour, out of which I would spend about 30 minutes explaining what a cosmetic dermatologist does, and then the rest of them actually consulting.
Yeah.
But I think, if you stick to your roots and you say that this is what it is, and you're explaining and making people understand, they understand. And then when their skin does great, they become your referral for others.
Correct. Why I'm asking you this is because I think it's really important. What you're sharing is really important. Where you're saying that you were very clear from day one that this is what you're going to do. It wasn't like, okay, till other clients come, let me just do this. It wasn't that. So I think that's really important for any business to be very clear on who your ideal customer is and just sticking to that, even though it may be harder, I think.
Great. Positioning. I mean, now in marketing terms, I mean, in business terms, you say positioning and all of that, right? But it really is, because you have to stand clear for something.
Yeah.
And once you stand clear, only then can you own that. Otherwise, you spread yourself too thin, and it's confusing to people looking in from the outside as to exactly what you stand
What is it that you do? Correct. Yes. With that, I have to ask you, what's the marketplace like today? Give us an insight into what's happening. How are people responding? What are the trends? What's in, what's out when it comes to cosmetic procedures, cosmetic skin treatments, in fact?
It's changed compared to before to now. I think COVID was a big changer.
Okay.
A lot of people actually leapfrogged in their behavior pattern from COVID time. I think before that, I remember people would think a few times, and sometimes after the consultation, they would actually go back home and say, I'll come back to you after I think about it. But today, people already know that they want to do something. They want to take care of themselves. So the whole self has become important. Before it was like others. It could be family, it could be friends, or it could just be work or savings, whatever. But today, self is also a part of the pie for them. So self-care has become important. They don't see it as an indulgence. They actually see it as a necessity. So that's been a shift in the way they perceive it, right? Now, what about the procedures? I think, a lot of the services have now become what we call as bread and butter, like laser hair reduction, right?
Yeah.
Everybody does it now because many years ago, when you said laser hair reduction, people would be like, oh my God, what will happen if I remove my laser? Will I still sweat? Is it going to cause cancer and all of that? Now the understanding is, I don't want to wax, so let me get laser hair reduction done. The only time they would have a little caution about is if they had to get like their bikini area done, they would wonder if something would happen. Other than that, the rest of it, it's like normal. Similarly for chemical peels, right? Chemical peels have just become regular like facials today. People don't think twice about having a peel anymore. Even though actually I always caution them that it is a medical procedure and chemical peels should ideally be done under medical supervision because you can actually burn patients. And now even salons are starting to do peels, and people are doing that and coming to us for the burns and the inflammation. But what I'm saying is it's become like norm, right? These are the norms. Now, when we talk to the next level, right, which is more like your Botox and fillers and facial glamorization, etc., there are certain areas on the face now which people are okay to inject, right? People are okay to take care of their under eye problems. Indians, by general and definition, are always going to get dark circles because we have a deficit under the eye area, and that needs actually filler treatments along with other. So people understand that now. They're like, oh, okay, it's an injection. Okay, doctor, let me learn more. But they will have it done. Before, they'd be like, I don't want any injectables. Do anything other than an injectable. But that's changing, right? So they're still more non-surgical oriented, and it's still a drift, at least in South India, it's more towards looking natural, looking good, etc. But, India behaves differently.
Yeah, I was going to ask you
Yeah.
if there's a difference between India and the rest of the world.
Yeah. India behaves very differently from the rest of the world. The rest of the world is already, even Botox and fillers has just become
Yeah.
a regular thing.
Lunchtime procedures.
Exactly. It's a maintenance, right? Like how you go to the gym, you go to your dermatologist. India is changing. But even in India, Savita, North, West, South India behave differently. Like in South, it's more about looking natural. You don't necessarily brag about doing a treatment. Whereas our clinic in Delhi at Cosmoderma, patients like to talk about having the procedure done and they want to show that they had it done.
How interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So they'll actually post on their Instagram at my skin doctors having my, Botox done or having my photofacial done. In South, my patients don't even want their friends in the waiting room when they're having procedures done.
Yeah.
Whereas in the West, it's now commonplace. Nobody gives
Yeah.
damn about it. Like they don't really care. It's just like, you know what? Like brushing my teeth, I have to take care of it. And when I say West, I'm talking like Mumbai and stuff like that because of the Bollywood influence there, right? But the other parts of the Western India have now adapted to wanting to look good. So you can see these changes.
Wow. And it's so interesting and especially as you're developing SkinQ, it may be really interesting for you to really understand who's going to adopt what first. So I do have to ask you, I know I did ask you about how patients have changed and stuff. At what stage did you feel that, I know post-COVID, but role changed from being a clinical doctor a doctor in clinic doing these procedures to now being this skincare mogul launching a skincare brand? Because you are not just competing with other skincare brands. You also have competition because now most doctors are seeing it makes sense for each of them to just launch their own product instead of telling people, go. And I see this not just in India, of course, across the world. So at what point did you notice for yourself the shift change? And do you feel that it was a big transition for you, or was it very normal and gradual for you?
I think it's just an evolution, really. I think it's just a natural progression that needed to be done because I built up Cosmoderma clinics. We have 9 now across 3 cities, and soon we'll be launching Mumbai also.
Okay.
So that covers all the metros for us for India. But the thing is, we realized that, at Cosmoderma itself, I have a skincare line, which I've actually had since 2012, where I formulated for Cosmoderma and did the R&D on that because I already knew that time itself that the skincare in the market is not going to cut it.
Yeah.
But we never sold it outside of Cosmoderma.
Only to patients when they came in. Okay.
Yes, as part of their regimen and stuff, which is why we have superior results, right? And our patients love that they can maintain it for a long time because maintenance is critical. I think in 2012 also, I'd launched, in 2008 actually, when I go back, I'd launched a training academy to train doctors because I realized that in India, there were no training institutes and training doctors for cosmetic dermatology at that time. And so I trained a lot of dermatologists, not just from India, but our academy had people coming in from Europe, Asia, Africa, etc. And we trained a lot of doctors. So I would see what would be, and I lecture, right? I sit on advisory boards.
A lot. So
I sit on advisory boards for a lot of the pharma companies, looking into what's current and what's future. And I also do a lot of trainings for doctors in India and globally. So I always knew what was the global view and I knew where India was and I could see where India is going to transition to. Right? So it was just, I think, a very organic, natural process. And in some ways, seamless, the transitions along the phase. About skincare into the D2C segment, that's another beast, right?
Yeah.
Because, competition in clinics is among medical fraternity. Now we're talking about the big guns, right? We're competing with P&G, we're competing with Unilever, which are like global giants, and with Honasa, which is Mama Earth brand, with all of them. And they all have deep, deep pockets. And, so it's a very different beast. And I think that had a learning curve for me. I'm still learning, but it had a really steep learning curve for me to adapt because it's pure business, right? There's nothing medical other than my product innovation. But running that business is pure business. So there was a big transition there. But I think it happened because I knew that, we needed to create something. I'll give you the statistics, right? 2/3 of the world's population is skin of color, which means melanin-rich skin, right? So we're talking about Indian diaspora, we're talking about Mediterranean skin, Middle Eastern skin, African skin, right? So we form 2/3 of the world's population. Take a guess how many skincare brands are there for skin of
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. Stay tuned as we take a quick break, and we'll see you on the other side of the show. Very minimal. I would say less than 10%.
5%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. To 65% of the population has less than 5% options, right? And nothing in the dermo-cosmetic space. And that's where SkinQ is. SkinQ is not just like a skincare or personal care brand. We are a dermo-cosmetics. We're what we call as functional skincare. That means we're there to create a change in your skin. We're not there just, oh, you feel dry, put a moisturizer. Oh, you need sunscreen, put a sunscreen. Everything in SkinQ actually has something to create a change for the better of your skin, right? So that was one of the bigger motivators for me, these kind of numbers. And I said, why are we not, doing this? And then, of course, I think the biggest was seeing all these patients who were getting side effects, because I realized that, we can sit back and say, don't do it and all of that. Yeah. But if I have to make a change, I need to get in there and start talking about products, start talking about safety, efficacy testing.
Yeah.
Like, we're the first brand which tested all our products for safety and efficacy before a launch. Otherwise, everybody will launch, and then later, somewhere along, they'll do a little bit of derm testing for like maybe 2 products out of 100 and say we're derm tested, but only 2 products would have been tested. And then efficacy testing, nobody was doing it till last year. We were the first brand to do that. And
are you saying among all the brands that exist, people weren't doing it?
Yeah, they weren't. They weren't doing efficacy claims because that's in the drug or the pharma realm, right? Not in the D2C, OTC realm. Because you just make something and you put it. And today, everybody does that, right? It's a cookie cutter.
Yeah, they're home. There are people making products at home, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Home is fine, but, factories, right? Yeah. Today, there's no entry barrier. You have about 2 crores. You can easily go and tell a factory, I want to start a skincare range. Give me 20 products. They'll just package. But the same thing, what's inside your bottle, is there in other 100 brands. Yeah. Except the packaging is different, the branding is different. That's all. But that's it, right? And I think that is very pseudo and it's very false. Because you are playing on human health and emotions, but more health. And for me as a doctor, that bothers me because, a lot of times when I look at people from their skin health and hair, nails, I can diagnose other underlying conditions, right? Like thyroid, hormone dysfunctions, even cancer. There are many times when I've told my patients, you need to see an oncologist because definitely this is something else. And they're like, no, I've had health checkups. I'm like, I'm telling you this is. And then they go, the oncologist says, no, I don't see much from your history. But then I would have written a letter saying, please check for this. And when they check, they find that they're early stages and stuff. So for me, it's such a thing. Then I'm like, why are you tampering with your skin health? You need to be so much more careful. So I thought, get in there and in my own small way, try and make a change. And it has, because when we started doing this and talking about testing, and we ran a whole campaign of, is your product tested? Ask your, brand for the testing certificates. People started testing, and the lab where we test told us that 90% of them couldn't pass the test because they have toxicity, or there's harmful ingredients, or they cause skin reactions.
I mean, I have to say, this is big stuff. I can't believe that, I'm watching a lot of doctors all the time, and I don't even know this. So I have to say thank you for sharing that. But wow, okay, so tell me more, continue. I don't want to interrupt you.
No, but these are the things that really made me want to take a stop and say, hey, like each of our formulation is unique, right? Yeah. We own our formulations. I worked on it. Like our sunscreen, which is one of our best sellers, took
the vitamin C one.
Yeah.
People watching, you have to get it.
It took me 8 years to stabilize that formula, right?
Okay.
That's why it doesn't matter what skin color you have or skin type, dry, oily, etc. It suits everybody. 0 white cast. But what people don't understand was we're the first sunscreen in the world proven to reduce tan and brighten skin, right? Because why do Indians wear sunscreen? Because we don't want to tan. Not because we're just worrying about our skin complexion, but because repeated tan leads to pigmentation.
Yeah.
And 90% of Indian women will suffer from hyperpigmentation. And the only way to prevent it is to use the right sunscreen. So today when I stand and say, hey, if you're not using my sunscreen, you're not preventing pigmentation, I can prove it because I have studies, like research and data back.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I'm very proud of myself right now for using all SkinQ. And about that hyperpigmentation, that's something that I struggle with. And you know that I had massive, in fact, that's the only thing I'm still getting treated for. It's taken me a year and I still have pigmentation, but I've gotten better. And I've learned so much more about sunscreen from that. So thank you for bringing that product. My God, I'm lathering it all the time now. So while for you it may have been a very general transition, how did it impact your life? Because at this point you have a very young child.
Yeah.
You had also gotten married in the last decade.
10 years, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot has been happening on the life front. So for you to transition between managing a clinic where you are daily treating doctors, and I still know that even I would say that a lot of people ask for you to inject them, right?
Yeah.
Now running this brand, also parenting, also travel, also teaching, doing these workshops. So how do you manage it all from transitioning from different roles?
It is really hard. There is no balance, let me tell you that. You have to choose what you want to prioritize and prioritize it at that time and be ready to firefight the hell out of it.
Yeah.
That is the truth, right? But saying that, there are a few things that I do prioritize. Like my son is now 7, but when I started this brand, he was 4. Like when I started work towards the brand and stuff, right? And Cosmoderma, because, this is my 18th year in Cosmoderma and we've got our SOPs, I've got a team running it and stuff. But of course, I'm involved into the day-to-day for the quality and then the training. I see patients myself as a dermatologist. So that takes up a chunk of my time. So I knew that, I had this much time. Where am I going to put it? So I had to be very focused on how I scheduled my time. And initially, because SkinQ was so early, it took up a lot of the time. And sometimes I would feel that I was not doing justice to Cosmoderma or to my family. And then I realized that, I have to really work on this. And so I actually made like an hour by hour schedule for myself as to where I need to be at what time and where I need to be. And then what I said was after 7 till 10, I'm going to be unavailable to anybody except for family.
Okay.
The reason is that my son comes back from school by about 2:30, 3:30 he's home and he has some activities he's done. But by 6:30, 7, he's done with dinner and stuff. So I see him at 7 and then we spend 7 to 9 our time together. So that is like a no-go zone for me, right? If I'm here in Bangalore, I'm at home by 6:45, 7. Then, we'll chat, we'll talk, we'll read stories, we'll play some games. Then I put him to bed and then he's in bed by about 8:30. By 9:15, lights out. And then I spend about half an hour, 1 hour with my husband. And then that's it.
Yeah.
Right? So that I made sure that happened. So that took away my whole guilt complex of not being there. Because, this mom guilt is true.
Yeah.
Savita, it doesn't matter what we do. It's always going to be there.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever people say. So I was like, how best can I deal with it? And of course, it helps when you have an understanding, supportive friend circle, family circle, right? My parents are very hands-on.
Yeah.
I travel. I can send my son to my parents in Mysore if needed, or my mom will come up and spend time with him.
Okay.
And then I built a support structure around my son, like his nanny, the second helper, everything, so that, there's always people around him who he's comfortable with, even if I have to travel and stuff. And my husband's also hands-on. Yeah. So that helps first and foremost, right? Then it's about structuring work hours. And so that's what it really was. And of course, it helps that I only sleep 3-4 hours a night for the longest time.
I do look like that. Okay. Now I'm not okay with this. Yeah.
But now I think, so those were the things, right? So it's not easy. You just have to focus on what needs your attention the most at that time. And then, of course, you really do need to get people to help and be willing to ask for help. I think the hardest thing is for us not wanting to say that we can't do it and we need help. And that way, I've got able people to help me with both my organizations, right? So that's been really good. I think last year probably was my most stressful year of everything so far because, I think I would say 2022 October to maybe end of last year was probably like October of last year. That 1 year was very stressful because we'd raised funds and we had to raise more funds. The climate for fundraising was very bad. And, we had to grow. And then the initial team I had at SkinQ was not the ideal team. We had to change. But I did get in this wonderful co-founder in, and she's been phenomenal. And so, stuff like that. And of course, with Cosmederma, it's been, touch wood, so far good and stuff. But, I need to pay attention because we have a team of doctors who need constant training, monitoring, and we have to be still going forward, right? We can't stay where we are and stuff. So yes, I would say it's been tough, but that's how I manage. But this year, though, my friends did an intervention because I think I went out socially maybe 3 or 4 times the entire year last year. So they're like, look, you've got to find time for us too. So now that's also now into my life cycle. So I'm like, okay, I have to make sure that every 2 weeks I do step out to see my friends. And that's really important because otherwise you get within yourself and it's not a good place to be.
And then you feel a little bit of the burnout.
Yes,
because and it's real burnout.
Yeah, burnout is real.
Yeah. So I have a few more questions when it comes to SkinQ, and I'm going to keep it, of course, short. What was your go-to-market strategy? Because you already had an audience and you have a big Instagram profile, social media profile. So you knew you had a community. Was that enough, or did you have to really build? Because I would think no, for the kind of numbers and volumes you're looking, especially if you're fundraising. What was your initial go-to-market strategy? Has it kind of changed as much as you can share, keeping in mind competition and everything else and how much you can give away?
No, I think, it's ever evolving. The same GTM that I had on day one is not what I have today.
Of course.
Right? But let me say that in my naivety, initially, I thought that if you put great products out there, people will understand and then they will purchase. I mean, I know that you have to do marketing and branding, but I assumed that that's what it would be. And then when I was in the market, I realized that India is not a quality conscious market.
Yeah.
It's more a very price conscious market. And, if you're playing a very D2C online game, it's a very discount centric market. Everybody loves discounts. They want offers and they'll wait for the discount and the offer before they buy.
Yeah.
And I realized that that's the way that everybody grows. So actually, that's why no D2C brand is profitable. And for me, I'm used to building a profitable brand and I'm used to looking at a P&L. Here, I'm looking at a burn sheet, right?
Yeah.
And that's not what I wanted to do. So fundamentally, I had to take a call if I'm going to build it like this, which is scale really fast, 30% growth, but forget anything else and stuff. Or I would still create a quality conscious brand and grow a little slower. Grow a little slower is more profitable, but not really what investors look for because they want that X return in so many years. So I had to speak to my investors and tell them that this is how I am building this brand. You'll have to be patient with me. And I think, we pitched to a lot of people and a lot of them didn't understand that. They just wanted to know how fast we would grow. And they're like, what if we give you this much money? What da. And I'm like, sure, but what about the next cycle and the next cycle? So then we got investors who were more aligned to my way of the vision and, what we wanted to do and stuff. And I think that was very paramount to how I pivoted SkinQ. But for me, it's for the quality conscious people. If you're looking for a discount, SkinQ is not a discount brand. It's not for people who want, a sale or a discount. SkinQ is for people who really want to take care of their skin and want to invest into themselves, who believe that they're worth it. That's our fundamental. Yeah. And so that's how I'm building it.
But I do have to say, since I've bought everything in the price that you have, including acne, even though I don't have, but I said, okay, I need to keep this on board. I do have to say that I think you're very well priced. It's affordable and it works. It gives you results. And I think you spend a lot more for products which come from luxury brands, for example. You spend a lot more and you don't know if the results are really there. So I think where you think that you are not in the price conscious game, I think you're priced really well. I think that's what I would like to talk about when it comes to pricing. You've done a great job on that. I don't think it's unaffordable. But is it $100, $200 kind of product? Maybe not. But it's not, 3 zeros after the product. It's a great brand.
No, we're like, under $990.
Yeah.
Right. But the thing is, that's because we put more of our money towards R&D and product quality rather than just to marketing and brand. Right.
I was going to ask you that. How much time and effort do you think now for the next phase? Because I know you've just done some repackaging of the brands. What's next? What's the vision for SkinQ next? And how much time, effort goes into marketing currently? And
right. So, with SkinQ, we have 2 ranges now. So we have SkinQ and we have SkinQ RX.
Okay.
So SkinQ RX actually retails through physician offices like dermatology clinic.
I was like, how come I didn't see this and I have to buy it? Okay.
No, SkinQ RX is part of like a treatment pre-post care, which goes through physician offices because we are dermocosmetics, right? And there is a lacune for skin of color dermocosmetics. And so we do that. So we are with some major dermatologists in India. Okay. And we're very careful about which dermatologists we also give it to because we want to make sure that they also have quality consciousness and stuff about it. Then now we have launched SkinQ RX in the US. So we're the first ever Indian manufactured, Indian formulated, Indian R&D dermocosmetics to ever launch in dermatology offices in the US. Wow. So I'm really proud about that. So we've just forayed into that. So we were actually at American Academy of Dermatology, at American Society of Derm Surgery, etc. over the last few months, where doctors now who we sampled actually loved our products, went on the podium to include our products in their talks and talk about what's new on the horizon or what you can do for skin of color, skincare in your offices and stuff. So we're getting the traction and we're slowly opening the accounts there. So our aim is to get 50 derm offices aligned to SkinQ RX by the end of this year. And that's where we have. We've also just tied up with a GCC distributor who will now distribute SkinQ RX to derm offices in Middle East. Yeah. So that's where our big vision is, the offline, the B2B side of it. On the online, we have SkinQ. So we have a hair care range that will be launching. Okay. It's a 4-month plan with nutraceuticals and serum to actually regrow and thicken hair, which we've done the R&D on already. And then we're going towards anti-aging with stem cells. Okay. That's
interesting. That is, yes, I've been hearing a lot about it. But congratulations. That's, I think, a big achievement to have an Indian brand RX product actually show up inside. I think I find Western markets, they're a little more, they're not early adopters of brands which are not made in their country, right? They're not early adopters to any, and I don't know about Indian brands. So it must have been quite a challenge. So congratulations on that. And now I'm going to quickly ask you, what's your favorite SkinQ product, of course, that everyone must try?
The sunscreen, our Sun Protect Gel, because I'll tell you why. I always say this to people that even if you don't do anything in your skincare routine, the only one thing you must really invest into is a good sunscreen. And you should use it diligently, at least 2 times a day if possible, if not at least once a day. If you can do that, you will prevent about 75% of the damage that will occur to your skin over the next few years. And you can protect yourself from hyperpigmentation, right? So I always say this, I don't care what you do with anything else, but sunscreen is the one thing where you should put all your money and your investment behind. So I would say our Sun Protect Gel, because it's the only proven one to actually reduce sun damage, to repair sun damage, and to help with correction of pigmentation.
Okay, and now SkinQ is for all age groups, or is there a specific?
No, anybody over 6 months of age.
Okay,
but actually, typically, I would like to say 2 years would be ideal because till 2 years they're like infants. Yeah. So after 2 years, so we have kids who use our SkinQ,
and it's safe and all of that.
Yeah, we're Made Safe certified.
Yeah. All right. And if I want to buy, I just go online and buy it.
SkinQ.com.
Okay. We're going to be sharing all that, but it was just, I wanted to follow up on that to see if it's for every age group. I also wanted to ask you, there's this thing that I've been seeing doing the rounds, sunscreen. Are you supposed to wear it indoors when you're using devices as well? Can that also add or cause pigmentation?
Well, very, very minimal. Actually, it's more marketing because you have to do some new noise. But the thing is, blue light, that's what we're talking about. The devices like your computer screens, especially, and sometimes your iPads, mobiles, etc., do emit a little bit of blue light. But the amount of blue light exposure is very minimal. It doesn't damage your skin as much as it damages the eye. So blue light lenses to protect your eye is way more crucial than blue light filter in your sunscreen. But if you have a sunscreen that's broad spectrum that does it all, why not?
Okay, perfect. So you heard it from the doctor, blue light lenses coming up. Now, I do want to ask you one quick thing. How do you deal with setbacks? I'm sure you've had many over the years. And also, being a parent, things are it's never a standard routine, right? Every day is a different day. One day your child is throwing up, one day something else has happened, one day there's a parent-teacher meeting. How do you manage to kind of keep your composure, navigate these sudden changes, and how do you deal with setbacks, or rejections, especially when you're trying to raise funding?
I think life is ups and downs, and you've got to take both on an even keel in many ways. And I've learned this over many, many years. And I think if you can do that, then you can deal with both. And setbacks are also very important, really, Savita, because I learn a lot more when I have a setback. Because think about it, right? When everything's going well, you're like goo goo gaga and you're on a high. You don't take the time to introspect as much. It's only when things are on the low or there's a downer that you actually spend time introspecting, spend time questioning, which we don't normally do. So I think both are equally important. And my setbacks, I always look upon it as a learning curve. And, it's human to err. And, that's what we all are. And I think it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to own up to the mistakes. Just own up to it. There's no need to hide behind it. I think the problem becomes when we feel like, oh my God, what will people think? What will people say? So I don't worry about it. I actually don't care what people say or what people think. I actually just don't. I know that if I am ethically correct and morally I'm doing the right thing, that's more important to me. I believe in that. And so whenever I do anything, I've done it with the best intention, with the best efforts, right? I've given it my hardest effort and the best intention. So if things go wrong, then I'm going to sit and see why did it go wrong and try and see that. And then I'll ask few people around who I think are really smart to say, hey, this has happened. Why do you think this happened? What could I have foreseen to have not happened? And now what can I do to overcome this? And I always do seek help. I talk to people. I'm not shy about saying, hey, I made a mistake, help.
Yeah. And can I ask you the competition question? How do you deal with competition? There's a lot now.
No, but I think competition is great. I don't think about that. That's all.
Okay.
I think there's
good. It's opening up the market as well.
Yeah, see, competition is good. And I think you always have to look up on your competition as, being there. But I'm not going to sit and look at them and say, oh, they did this, I need to do this. I'm doing what I think I need to do while being mindfully aware of what the horizon is like.
Yeah.
So I don't give a lot of thought to my competition, honestly.
Okay. What's your favorite role? Like, you are a businesswoman, you're a doctor, you're also a parenting. Actually, I'll leave the parenting just when it comes from a work view. Which do you like more, when you're interacting with patients or when you're in the office pitching to investors?
Okay. So, I got to say that I enjoy them all a lot.
Okay.
And my patients, I think I find that like soul satisfying. The reason is that when I transform someone's skin or I transform their hair, their appearance, and I just end up glamorizing them, the things that I see in them and the changes that happen to them, that satisfies my soul.
Okay.
But what satisfies my brain, I think, is business side of it, right? Honestly. And pitching to investors, I don't think I enjoy that as much. Pitching, no one does, right? Because the thing is, you're just pitching, and half the time you're pitching to people who don't even understand what you're talking about. And all they really want to see is how much will you grow, this. And then if you're talking about newer segments, everybody wants to know what's your differentiator, what's your moat, and, where are you going to be in 3 years, 5 years. And stuff and you could say stuff, but but there are some investors who are just fabulous, who handhold you, who nurture you and stuff. And those are the ones that I don't mind talking to it a lot. But I do enjoy both sides. But I gotta say that I think being a mom trumps it all.
I'm sure. There's a different joy in it. And there's a lot of like that. When it's hard. And when it's good, it's so good. And finally, before I do my quick 5 questions or 6 questions with you, my last one to you, my last 2, okay, quick ones. One is, you're on stage a lot. What's your tip to crack it on stage and appear confidently, because you're always in front of large audiences and in front of the camera?
Yeah.
What's one tip that you would like to share about showing up confidently?
Stay true to your knowledge. Don't try and hack it or don't try and fake it. The thing is, if you're speaking on what you know, then no one's going to doubt you or question you. And for me, I fundamentally believe that if someone's asked me to come and speak to them there, it's because there's things that I know that they want to share. So that's all I'm doing. I'm sharing. Now, there are people who would love it. There may be people who would be like, that was okay. It's okay. I'm not there to please everybody. I'm there to share what I know. And that's what I do. And at the end of the day, I look upon the audience as just, a classroom. That helps me. I just look upon it as a classroom and, I'm just talking and they're imbibing. And that's how it helps me. And I don't have any stage fright or public.
Never had?
No, never had. But there was one time I was very, very nervous in 2015. I remember. I was at the World Congress of Dermatology and I'd won an award. I was the first Indian dermatologist to ever win this. It was the Rising Star Award. And I had to give a talk. And I was so nervous. I called my parents and I was like, I'm so nervous, blah, blah, blah. So I remember my dad telling me, honey, you won an award because they saw something in you. They've asked you to give a talk because they want to know what you're thinking. So talk about you and your journey and what you know. Don't go and read and don't go and research and all of that. That's not necessary. So if you that's why I say, stay true to your knowledge and to what you know, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I think, that's a great tip. If anybody's preparing to speak on stage, just like you rightly said, don't research, because then you start to feel like, do I need to do this? Do I need to add this? And there's so much self-doubt as it is that comes in. And my final one for you and for our audience is, what's your advice to other women entrepreneurs who are starting out? You've been in this game for a long time. What's your advice to people who are starting out or who are having a very challenging first few years?
Got it. Right. The first thing I would say is get a lot of work experience in different companies and have. The reason is that you learn, and then you start your own. If you start right away, then definitely get a mentor, because the thing is, you do need someone to keep bouncing these ideas off and your thought process. It is a lonely journey. Everybody says it, but it's true, Savita. It is a lonely journey when you're building your businesses. And so you do need someone to handhold you. It could be a mentor. Savita does that. You do that. I know you helped a friend of mine really, really transform her business and stuff. But you need this kind of coaching, and there's no harm in getting coaches. So I would always say get a coach. Mentor, coach, whatever you call it. That's one aspect. The second aspect is be open to changes. Don't be set in your ways and say, I want to do this, so I'm only going to do it this way. Be open to always changing, because, my pitch deck, if I have to tell you, I think I'm on my 70th version of my pitch deck from the day I started, because you learn and you keep adapting and change is the only constant. So keep changing. And the other thing I want to say is, you can't have it all the time. Sometimes you can. So it's okay. You do what you want to do, but enjoy the journey. And if you're not enjoying, get out.
Okay, that was well put. Get out. If you can't do it, you have to have fun, Drew.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think that was brilliant. And I think while you hear advice over and over again, the hardest part is to say, this is it. Just do this. Follow the process. And it works. This stuff works, and you've done and tried it. With that, we come to the end of our podcast. But I have a quick one. So this is a quick game, I would say. You have to tell me, I'm going to call out a word, and you have to say what comes to mind when I say that word. Okay? The first one for you is love.
Compassion, family.
Okay. Beauty.
Skin.
Skin deep or
Beauty is an eye of the beholder. 3 seconds to know what is beautiful. But yeah, beauty is skin deep.
okay. Dream destination.
Anything with a beach.
All right. Parenting is
Tough, but very fulfilling.
okay. A mantra you swear by. Anything that comes up.
Always do everything so that you can go to bed happily, peacefully at night.
Okay, good one. A favorite fashion accessory, because if for people who don't know, Dr. Chytra is a total style queen. We walk into a clinic and then, most patients are busy checking out her style, okay? And she's really very well put together. So what's your favorite fashion accessory?
I gotta say, makeup-free, healthy, radiant, glowing skin. Honestly, it really is the best accessory. Like, if you look at me, I hardly have worn anything today to your podcast, but it is skin. But otherwise, for me, shoes and bags.
Okay. But you know what? I was expecting a skincare doctor to say skin, of course. But my last one is skincare tip that you swear by, that everyone must do.
Use a sunscreen on a daily basis ever since you're at least 2 years of age. The earlier you start, the better. That's my tip.
All right. And with that, we come to the end of our podcast. Thank you so much for being here. We'd love to have you around for phase 2 when something big is coming up with SkinQ. And here's wishing you all the best in your SkinQ journey. We'd love to hear more about growth, of course, in your next chapter and what's to come. All the very best to you. And
thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun, Samita. Thank you.
You're welcome. And any last tips that you have on skincare for our audience before you go?
Sunscreen. No, I'm just going to say that skin is really easy. All you need is just 5 things to do, 4 things on a daily basis, right? I'll just tell you what I tell all my patients. You have to cleanse, but use no soap, but a pH balanced cleanser. You have to nourish your skin, so you need to use a moisturizer, but you need a moisturizer with ceramides. Just putting shea butter, cocoa butter, not helping. Then sunscreen, which is your protection, right? So cleanse, nourish, and protect. And then if you have a skincare concern or an issue, then use something to repair it. If you don't, all you need is 3 steps. If you have a concern, 4th step. And then the 5th step is what we call as boost. Like if you're over the age of 25, which is when aging of the skin sets in, you need to exfoliate your skin with gentle exfoliants, no harsh scrubs, once every 2 to 3 weeks to keep boosting the skin. That's all you need to do consistently. So skincare is really not hard. It's really easy. Just get it right and stay consistent.
Okay, thank you, ladies. And people, actually, anybody who's listening to this, if you want business advice, you've got all of that here today. But if you also want skincare advice, you know where to find Dr. Chytra. We're going to be sharing all the links in the the episode notes. And you can also reach out to her on her Instagram, where she shares a bunch of tips, which is so easy to follow, actually. And with that, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you like this episode and you want more, you can go to the show notes on my website, which is successwithsavita.com/podcast. If you like what you've heard so far, I would be grateful to you if you could leave me a 5-star review, subscribe to this podcast, and share with a friend who may find this useful. You can also follow me on my Instagram @successwithsavita and DM me any questions you may have, and I will be happy to answer them for you. Until the next episode, believe in yourself and all the best to your success.